Welcome back to Sober Readings. I'm Scott, and today I'm joined by my friend Katie. In this episode, we're reading Step 2 from 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, Came to Believe that a Power Greater Than Ourselves Could Restore Us to Sanity. We'll read directly from the text and then share an honest conversation about what this step means to us, what it looks like to incorporate this step into our daily lives, and the doubts we had initially, and how this step continues to shape our recovery today. Katie also shares part of her inspiring story of how AA, the fellowship, God, and the steps have helped her deal with a cancer diagnosis, treatment, and all the fear that goes along with it. I'm so grateful to call her my friend and be a part of her story. Whether you're brand new, spiritually skeptical, or years into sobriety, we're glad you're here. So let's get into Step 2 with Katie. All right, Step 2 from the 12 and 12 book. Step 2 says, Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And here today to help us read Step 2 and then discuss it is my friend Katie.
Hi.
Hi, Katie. All right, so let's get to the reading, and I will let you begin.
Thanks. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The moment they read Step 2, most AA newcomers are confronted with a dilemma, sometimes a serious one. How often have we heard them cry out, "Look what you people have done to us. You've convinced us that we're alcoholics and that our lives are unmanageable. Having reduced us to a state of absolute helplessness, you now declare that none but a higher power can remove our obsession. Some of us won't believe in God, others can't, and still others who do believe that God exists have no faith whatever he will perform this miracle. Yes, you've got us over the barrel, all right, but where do we go from here? Let's look first at the case of the one who says he won't believe, the belligerent one. He is in a state of mind which can be described only as savage. His whole philosophy of life, in which he is so gloried, is threatened. It's bad enough, he thinks, to admit alcohol has him down for keeps. But now, still smarting from that admission, he's faced with something really impossible. How he does cherish the thought that man, risen so majestically from a single cell in the primordial ooze, is the spearhead of evolution and therefore the only God that his universe knows. Must he renounce all this to save himself? At this juncture, his AA sponsor usually laughs. This, the newcomer thinks, is just about the last straw. This is the beginning of the end, and so it is, the beginning of the end of his old life and the beginning of his emergence into a new one. His sponsor probably says, "Take it easy. The hoop you have to jump through is a lot wider than you think. At least I found it so. So did a friend of mine who was a one-time vice president of the American Atheist Society, but he got through with room to spare." Pass.
Well, says the newcomer, I know you're telling me the truth. It's no doubt a fact that AA is full of people who once believed as I do. But just how, in these circumstances, does a fellow take it easy? That's what I want to know. That, agrees the sponsor, is a very good question indeed. I think I can tell you exactly how to relax. You won't have to work at it very hard either. Listen, if you will, to these 3 statements. First, Alcoholics Anonymous does not demand that you believe anything. All of its 12 steps are but suggestions. Second, to get sober and to stay sober, you don't have to swallow all of Step 2 right now. Looking back, I find that I took it piecemeal myself. Third, all you really need is a truly open mind. Just resign from the debating society and quit bothering yourself with such deep questions as to whether it was the hen or the egg that came first. Again, I say, all you need is the open mind. The sponsor continues. Take, for example, my own case. I had a scientific schooling. Naturally, I respected, venerated, even worshipped science. As a matter of fact, I still do, all except the worship part. Time after time, my instructors held up to me the basic principle of all scientific progress. Search and research, again and again, always with the open mind. When I first looked at AA, my reaction was just like yours. This AA business, I thought, is totally unscientific. This I can't swallow. I simply won't consider such nonsense. Then I woke up. I had to admit that AA showed results, prodigious results. I saw that my attitude regarding these had been anything but scientific. It wasn't AA that had the closed mind, it was me. The minute I stopped arguing, I could begin to see and feel. Right there, step 2 gently and very gradually began to infiltrate my life. I can't say upon what occasion or upon what day I came to believe in a power greater than myself, but I certainly have that belief now. To acquire it, I had only to stop fighting and practice the rest of AA's program as enthusiastically as I could. Pass.
This is only one man's opinion based on his own experience, of course. I must quickly assure you that AAs tread innumerable paths in their quest for faith. If you don't care for the one I've suggested, you'll be sure to discover one that suits if you only look and listen. Many a man like you has begun to solve the problem by the method of substitution. You can, if you wish, make AA itself your higher power. Here's a very large group of people who have solved their alcohol problem. In this respect, they are certainly a power greater than you, who have not even come close to a solution. Surely you can have faith in them. Even this minimum of faith will be enough. You will find many members who have crossed the threshold just this way. All of them will tell you that once across, their faith broadened and deepened. Relieved of the alcohol obsession, their lives unaccountably transformed. They came to believe in a higher power, and most of them began to talk of God. Consider next the plight of those who once had faith but have lost it. There will be those who have drifted into indifference, those filled with self-sufficiency who have cut themselves off, those who have become prejudiced against religion, and those who are downright defiant because God has failed to fulfill their demands. Can AA experience tell all these that they may still find a faith that works? Sometimes AA comes harder to those who have lost or rejected faith than to those who never had any faith at all, for they think they have tried faith and found it wanting. They have tried the way of faith and the way of no faith. Since both ways have proved bitterly disappointing, they have concluded that there is no place whatever for them to go. The roadblocks of indifference, fancied self-sufficiency, prejudice, and defiance often prove more solid and formidable for these people than any erected by the unconvinced agnostic or even the militant atheist. Religion says the existence of God can be proved. The agnostic says it can't be proved, and the atheist claims proof of the non-existence of God. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain in even a small degree the assurance of the believer, the agnostic, or the atheist. He is the bewildered one. Pass.
Any number of AAs can say to the drifter, yes, we were diverted from our childhood faith too. The overconfidence of youth was too much for us. Of course, we were glad that good home and religious training had given us certain values. We were still sure that we ought to be fairly honest, tolerant, and just, that we ought to be ambitious and hardworking. We became convinced that such simple rules of fair play and decency would be enough. As material success founded upon no more than these ordinary attributes began to come to us, we felt we were winning at the game of life. This was exhilarating, and it made us happy. Why should we be bothered with theological abstractions and religious duties, or with the state of our souls here and hereafter? The here and now was good enough for us. The will to win would carry us through. But then alcohol began to have its way with us. Finally, when all our scorecards read 0 and we saw that one more strike would put us out of the game forever, we had to look for our lost faith. It was in AA that we rediscovered it, and so can you. Now we come to another kind of problem, the intellectually self-sufficient man or woman. To these, many AAs can say, yes, we were like you, far too smart for our own good. We love to have people call us precocious. We used our education to blow ourselves up into prideful balloons, though we were careful to hide this from others. Secretly, we felt we could float above the rest of the folks on our brain power alone. Scientific progress told us there was nothing man couldn't do. Knowledge was all-powerful. Intellect could conquer nature. Since we were brighter than most folks, so we thought, the spoils of victory would be ours for the thinking. The God of intellect displaced the God of our fathers. But again, John Barleycorn had other ideas. We who had won so handsomely in a walk turned into all-time losers. We saw that we had to reconsider or die. We found many in AA who once thought as we did. They helped us to get down or to our right size. By their example, they showed us that humility and intellect could be compatible, proved we placed humility first. When we began to do that, we received the gift of faith, a faith which works. This faith is for you too. Pass.
Another crowd of AAs says, we were plumb disgusted with religion and all its works. The Bible, we said, was full of nonsense. We could cite it chapter and verse, and we couldn't see the Beatitudes for the begots. In certain spots, its morality was impossibly good. In others, it seemed impossibly bad. But it was the morality of the religionists themselves that really got us down. We gloated over the hypocrisy, bigotry, and crushing self-righteousness that clung to so many believers, even in their Sunday best. How we loved to shout the damaging fact that millions of the good men of religion were still killing one another off in the name of God. This all meant, of course, that we had substituted negative for positive thinking. After we came to AA, we had to recognize that this trait had been an ego-feeding proposition. In belaboring the sins of some religious people, we could feel superior to all of them. Moreover, we could avoid looking at some of our own shortcomings. Self-righteousness, the very thing that we had contemptuously condemned in others, was our own besetting evil. This phony form of respectability was our undoing, so far as faith was concerned. But finally, driven to AA, we learned better. As psychiatrists have often observed, defiance is the outstanding characteristic of many an alcoholic. So it's not strange that lots of us have had our day at defying God himself. Sometimes it's because God has not delivered us the good things of life which we specified, as a greedy child makes an impossible list for Santa Claus. Most often, though, we had met up with some major calamity, and to our way of thinking, lost out because God deserted us. The girl we wanted to marry had other notions. We prayed God that she'd change her mind, but she didn't. We prayed for healthy children, and were presented with sick ones, or none at all. We prayed for promotions at business, and none came. Loved ones upon whom we heartily depended were taken from us by so-called acts of God. Then we became drunkards and asked God to stop that, but nothing happened. This was the unkindest cut of all. Damn this faith business, we said. When we entered AA, the fallacy of our defiance was revealed. At no time had we asked what God's will was for us. Instead, we had been telling him what it ought to be. No man, we saw, could believe in God and defy him too. Belief meant reliance, not defiance. In AA, we saw the fruits of this belief, men and women spared from alcohol's final catastrophe. We saw them meet and transcend their other pains and trials. We saw them calmly accept impossible situations, seeking neither to run nor to reincriminate. This was not only faith, it was a faith that worked under all conditions. We soon concluded that whatever price and humility we must pay, we would pay. Now let's take the guy full of faith, but still reeking of alcohol. He believes he's devout. His religious observance is scrupulous. He's sure he still believes in God, but suspects that God doesn't believe in him. He takes pledges and more pledges. Following each, he not only drinks again, but acts worse than the last time. Valiantly, he tries to fight alcohol, imploring God's help, but the help doesn't come. What then can be the matter? Pass.
To clergymen, doctors, friends, and families, the alcoholic who means well and tries hard is a heartbreaking riddle. To most AAs, he is not. There are too many of us who have been just like him and have found the riddle's answer. The answer has to do with the quality of faith rather than its quantity. This has been our blind spot. We suppose we had humility when we really hadn't. We suppose we had been serious about religious practices when, upon honest appraisal, we found we had been only superficial. Or, going to the other extreme, we had wallowed in emotionalism and had mistaken it for true religious feeling. In other cases, we had been asking something for nothing. The fact was, we really hadn't cleaned house so that the grace of God could enter us and expel the obsession. In no deep or meaningful sense had we ever taken stock of ourselves, made amends to those we had harmed, or freely given to any other human being without any demand for reward. We had not even prayed rightly. We had always said, "Grant me my wishes," instead of "Thy will be done." The love of God and man we understood not at all. Therefore, we remained self-deceived, and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity. Few indeed are the practicing alcoholics who have any idea how irrational they are, or, seeing their irrationality, can bear to face it. Some will be willing to term themselves problem drinkers, but cannot endure the suggestion that they are in fact mentally ill. They are abetted in this blindness by a world which does not understand the difference between sane drinking and alcoholism. Sanity is defined as soundness of mind, yet no alcoholic, soberly analyzing his destructive behavior, whether this destruction fell on the dining room furniture or his own moral fiber, can claim soundness of mind for himself. Therefore, step 2 is the rallying point for all of us. Whether agnostic, atheist, or former believer, we can stand together on this step. True humility and an open mind can lead us to faith, and every AA meeting is an assurance that God will restore us to sanity if we rightly relate ourselves to Him. And that is the end of the step 2 reading. There's a lot in that, Katie.
Oh yeah, I love step 2.
You want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, the best part about the step 2 chapter is that it's presented as, different versions of us that come to AA. But really, what I get from this chapter over and over again as I stay sober is that these characters that appear are all me in different forms, in like the ways that I try to resist God and coming to believe. It's like there is a part of me that's an atheist. There is a part of me that's agnostic. There's a part of me that was raised in a church, and it doesn't mean I identify as those things. But what I like about this, the same way I like about everything else in the program, is that it gives me really big clues as to the way that my brain is working and the way that my alcoholic mind is working against me. So even though technically I came to believe, like on paper 2.5 years ago, this really highlights all the places that I still have prejudice and all the places that I still have problems turning it over and all the places that I'm still like so sure that I'm right. It just kind of shines a light on that, and it's like, my favorite thing to come out of step 2 is when I'm uncomfortable, I just kind of ask myself, like, according to what, and I get to check myself on what I believe and where those beliefs are coming from. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning of the chapter, and it has little short writings, kind of a summary of each chapter. So the summary for step 2 says, it reads the step first, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. What can we believe in? AA does not demand belief. 12 steps are only suggestions. Importance of an open mind, variety of ways to faith, substitution of AA as higher power, plight of the disillusioned, roadblocks of indifference and prejudice, lost faith found in AA, problems of intellectuality and self-sufficiency, negative and positive thinking, self-righteousness, defiance is an outstanding characteristic of alcoholics. Step 2 is a rallying point to sanity, right relation to God. So it's kind of like a bunch of bullet points outlining step 2, and I thought this is a good thing to use when having a conversation about step 2, because you can simply look at these bullet points and I can relate to that or talk about one of those. Does any one of those stand out to you for step 2?
When I look at those, I just think all of them would be great titles for my memoir.
Yeah.
I have The Plight of the Disillusioned, the Katie Fisher story. But you can delete that part. But I don't even, AA does not demand belief. Like, I don't even know that I knew that the first year that I was here. One of the things that's beautiful about this program is that it unfolds. And one of the things I read in that chapter is the broadened and deepened quote. And that just reminds me of water. And, like, water is just so powerful. And, like, if you think about a stream turning into a river, that is the importance of an open mind for me. It's like allowing I don't know, you've been sitting with me in this room. Like, I think in pictures. I have allowed my creativity to be like completely penetrated by the 12 steps and my journey to understand a higher power. And like I let it be fun. I let it be, like, I try to stay really open-minded, because of course I need God when I'm uncomfortable and crying about Photoshop and, you know, like in that state of mind. But like finding God on a good day when I'm just feeling good and it's really fun is also just as rewarding as finding him in despair, you know. And one of the first things I started doing when I got sober was just like listen to the radio, not me picking music, not Spotify or something like that, the radio that's being broadcast. And I would just listen to the songs, and I would pretend either it was a song from me to God or from God to me. And sometimes it was really, really insightful, and sometimes it was silly, and other times it was really funny, and other times it was really dramatic. But like, it was a connection I had never had, that had a piece of, you know, at the time I just saw it as quote unquote random, you know, songs playing on the radio. But the less I believe in coincidences, the more I, you know, being open-minded is work, like everyday work.
Mm-hmm.
And as an artist, I just thought I was open-minded, you know. But I have to pry it open every day. Like, it starts to close as soon as I wake up. And I have to, you know, get a prop in there, which is usually the morning meeting, and that keeps it pretty open all day. But every time I have an idea or an expectation, it starts to close, and it starts to become Katie vision, you know. And the other thing that really sticks out in this is, like, I was one of those people who came here and I had to use the logic of making the group my higher power first. Like, the sentence in that chapter that says, you know, you can make the group your higher power. These people have solved their alcohol problem. You definitely have not, you know. That really worked on me. And then I got a little bit of time, and I was sitting in these meetings and listening to these people who were having, you know, miraculous days, and something in me just knew that I wanted it to broaden and deepen. I wanted a better, higher power for myself than a doorknob. And I realized that I did have a better, higher power than a doorknob, and that the doorknob was a very important symbol for me, especially as a visual thinker. But every day I just try to be out in that big picture instead of in Katie vision.
Yeah, so, I think it's like the big book says. I think it's the big book that talks about using, or it's one of our books, maybe it's this one, that talks about using the group. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. About using the group as my higher power. And like you said, I can use a doorknob as my higher power. Whatever works for me in the beginning is great. But at some point, mm-hmm. I want to, you know, at some point I reached a point where I was like, okay, yes, the room is a higher power than me. Yes, the group is a higher power than me. Yes, AA is a higher power than me. But, you know, I need to find my own higher power and how it works in my sobriety. And consistency is really important to me. Like you mentioned something about it's easy to do these things on the good days, mm-hmm. or when times are bad. I think you said it, and when things are hard, and that's so true. But consistency for me is I need to do these things all the time, even when times mm-hmm. are good. Like, I've made it a habit to get on my knees in the morning and pray every morning. And that's been hard, not because I don't want to do it, but it's been hard just to remember it, you know. I know that it feels right, it feels good. I know that it helps me. But I don't want to just do it when times are bad. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to get in the habit of doing it all the time because I believe that it helps me. Number one, it helps me stay close to this program and stay close to my higher power, mm-hmm. you know, and that's really important. You know, another bullet point in the beginning here, one of the most important ones for me is importance of an open mind. And I think you talked about that. And, I want to hear your opinion on what an open mind is and how you or when you came to have an open mind, specifically in this program. Because I think, like you said, like I always thought I had an open mind. Even before I got sober, before I came to this program. Turns out I didn't, because I wasn't willing. I didn't have the willingness to believe in something greater than me. I didn't have the willingness to believe that I was an alcoholic and I couldn't get myself out of it. That's closed-minded. That's having a one-track brain. And so, it took what it took to get me here, to become willing to have that open mind to try new things in this program. So what's your thought on that?
I guess part of what has shifted for me is like, I get the higher power that I have come to believe in has also become the discipline in my life, with the spiritual axiom, which tells me that every time I'm disturbed, it's because I'm choosing to be disturbed, essentially. It doesn't mean that what happened to me was right or wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. It just means that, if something shitty happens and I choose to carry that feeling around all day, then that's my choice. And I have a solution. If I want to take it, it's up to me, And in that moment, my alcoholic brain is usually feeling really stubborn and really convicted that, like, I'm right. And to admit that I'm wrong in those moments would be detrimental to the ego. Like, it fights against it so much. And I think that I think what I don't want to accept most of the time is that I have to accept that I have a closed mind and that this program helps me open my mind and that it does not stay open. And I think point. That the kind of the shift that I've made is like, I wake up an alcoholic, like we know that equation, but like I wake up closed-minded, and throughout the day things come up, and it's like this list of roadblocks of indifference and prejudice and defiance, and as those things appear, my mind starts to close, because then I'm acting the way, I know how, quote unquote, know how to act, or I'm doing the right things, and then I do a couple of those, and I'm in self-sufficient behavior, and I'm in selfish, self-centered, even with the best intentions behavior. And if I think of open-mindedness as being the perfection that we always talk about, then I don't have to worry every day whether I'm open-minded or closed-minded, Then I can just see it like everything else, which is like a spectrum I can work on, and I can just keep opening. I can work on opening. Then that's my goal for the day, is to like look for things that, the way I've described it in other settings is like, some thoughts make me feel like I'm in a hallway that has more hallways, and other thoughts make me feel like I'm in an open field, where I can think and I can breathe and the urgency is low. And usually when I'm on that path, it's like more of a God's will path is what it feels like. So I have no idea if I even answered your question, but I guess I had to take the stakes out if I could fuck it up or not during the day. Mm-hmm. I just had to see it as something, I have to be kind, I have to be tolerant, I have to be open-minded. It's like, it's a goalpost, but it's not ever something I will be perfect at, or like God's never going to come down and give me my gold star and be like, you did it, you achieved open-mindedness. It's going to flux just as often as I do and my feelings do, which is why we learn the truth in here so that when all of the change occurs out in the world, there is a piece of my brain that is like locked in and says, I see that, I understand that, I know where it's coming from, but like none of that's the truth, you know? Like, get over yourself a little bit. My higher power gives me really tough love because I think that's what I need right now, and it will probably change in the future, but I need discipline currently in my spiritual life. I know that, and I pray on my knees every morning too. And you know, there's gonna be people listening to this that are like, "That's fucking insane. I would never do that." You know, that is insane, and I would never do that. But part of me is deeply convinced that if I don't, I will drink again, and that's the part of me that knows that. Like, that's open-minded of me.
So a couple things.
Like, in some ways.
A couple things that this touches on is, number one, I think the value for step 2 is humility, the most important thing. Excuse me. And getting on my knees every morning is just one step towards humility for me. Like, that's, you know, and I know that. Like, I know if I'm not doing that, I'm saying, I don't need to do that. I'm better than that. I don't need to do that. And I don't want to do that. Like, I want to take that step toward humility every day.
It's such a taking for granted that God's
so
coming
simple,
along
right?
with you wherever you go, you know? And it's like, we sit in these meetings and we talk all the time, and when prayer comes up, people are like, I have a hard time talking to God. I have a hard time talking to God. It's like, that's not what prayer is. It's humbling yourself enough that you pray on your knees every morning because you will die otherwise.
Because that little action can lead to other actions throughout the day.
Yeah, you're more willing to let a car go out in front of you in traffic. You're more willing to just like be nice online at the grocery store because you already have humbled yourself in a small but very meaningful way. That like your brain is telling you like, no, we don't do that. That's ridiculous. But you know what my brain thinks is perfectly fine? Hiding vodka in mugs in the back of the cabinet so that when I wake up in the morning, I have a backup stash of vodka. Perfectly fine, but praying is absurd.
So if somebody finds the first one and dumps it out, you got 2 backups.
Inevitably, because it would have happened before, you know? So, like, I can, you know, learn from that experience, but I can't. But I take for granted every single day that I just pray a little bit and I'm sober, you know? Like,
yeah, and I think one thing that you talked about was, you know, goals and a goal line. And I think the thing about this is, you know, this is why one day at a time is so important because for me, like, there is no finish line. There is no goal line. There is no, like, okay, I'm sober for whatever the time period is. Like, it's not it. It's, you know, and we hear this all the time in personal development, you know, stories and stuff where it's not about the goal. It's not about the finish line. It's about the journey getting there. And that's exactly what it is for me. Like for sobriety, the journey is it's really all about the journey. And the journey is every day. It's not about like, you know, one day it's going to be the end and, you know, whatever. It's really about the journey and AA and the principles that we live by and the stuff that we're reading, like makes that journey so much more fun, so much more, you know, doable, I guess.
Yeah.
Life on life's terms. I mean, we have all these things that we say, but yeah, life on life's terms. And I'm able to accept the things that happen on a daily basis, you know, because of things like step 2.
And they become more meaningful, you know? And like, there's so many things we already do in our life that we don't know the end of, like all of our interpersonal relationships, you know? Like, you don't know how long a friendship's going to last when you start it. Most of the time, it's a lot shorter than you expect it to be, you know, when you're hanging out with someone. And you don't get those moments where you're like, oh, if I could have gone back, if I knew that was the last time I was going to hang out with that person, you know. And you don't usually reflect on those things until that person dies. And yet we walk around all the time about to die. There is no, it's actually a little crazy that we have such a weird relationship to death as humans, because it's like the only thing besides the weather that we all have in common, you know? And so how many movies, like how many Disney movies, how many Lifetime movies, how many TV shows have I seen in my life where that is the punchline? That's like, you have to live for today because there isn't anything else. And how many times do I digest that and know it and then go home and spend like 3 hours worrying about something that does not matter, you know? And that is where, that's like where I can be open-minded and not think about it. Because in those moments I have to be like, oh, Katie, maybe this is your alcoholism. Oh, Katie, maybe this is like some of those roots from step 4 that we found. Like, maybe this problem isn't quite as urgent as you think it is, you know? And because I've learned to open that, you know, periphery a little wider, it makes it safer and more comfortable for my ego to maybe look at it, you know, and accept, like, that it might not all be in reality, that some of that is based. And if the more open I get my mind, then none of us are different and we're all the same. And when I can get there, it's like, okay. Because then the pressures on me are so much less, you know. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Having a time off from work to have cancer, it will really show you what matters and what doesn't, you know, because all the people I love in my life kind of took a step back from needing me so much emotionally that I was able to, just sit with myself a lot this year and watch my feelings come and go like weather, and really be able to get a better look at what's at the tenets of denial, which are rationalization, justification, minimalization, intellectualization. Like, if any of those things are at play, it's not God usually for me. You know, when those isations start showing up, now I can look at, like, I mean, most of the time I'm not perfect. I end up crying sometimes, but other times I'm able to be like, oh, this is just we're at a spot. Ego's being stubborn. This is something you're wrong about or you don't know about, and you just gotta let it go. And it's, how long do you want to be uncomfortable, Katie? But I never had a little voice before that says that, you know. I never had that voice on my living room floor. I mean, at least I couldn't hear it yet.
I think that's what AA does to all of us. I think that's what AA does to all of us in the rooms, is gives us that little voice. You know, because,
or at least it turns it up. Because I mean, it's been telling me to draw pictures my whole life. You know, like, I do believe that. I don't know what I believe, but I don't think I got God in this room. I think God's been here the whole time, you know. And it's but it's like I was swimming upstream the whole time, and now I'm swimming with the current. Like, I don't think it needs to be more complicated than that, trying to figure out me and God and the cosmos and all that. I think later steps deal with that, where it's like, why do you think you, like, deserve to know what God is? That you should proceed in your life only if someone reveals the great answer to you, you know. Who do you think you are? So why don't you just pray to something, anything, and that, like, that tangible willingness is what I think the current really works with, you know.
So step 2 states, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That implies that we were insane. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I felt so insane that I have no problem with that. And I think, like, if you use that thing that's like, if you do the same thing over and over and you expect different results, that's the definition of insanity, then yes,
absolutely,
fine, I was insane. I also was sure that I was bipolar, and I was trying to drink my 2 characters apart. Which was like my self-sufficient idea. And because I felt them like at war with each other on the inside of myself, and I just was trying to, like, drink them
That almost
apart.
sounds like justifying your drinking.
It sure does. For the sake of my mental health, you know. But And I don't know why that was the thought, but that was the thought. And I was so incredibly lonely. Like I don't even know how I got that language, because it's so right out of the big book, and I had never read any of that before. But at the end of my drinking, I was just telling Jay, like all the time, like I'm just so lonely. Like my heart was lonely, like my soul was lonely, and that feels insane, because like I was just working a regular job. I was like had a boyfriend. I had friends that were coming over every Friday and Saturday night. Like if you had looked at my life, sure you could see a drinking problem, but you did not see someone who was planning on getting sober to kill herself so that everybody knew that she did it on purpose, you know? And the fact that I stopped drinking literally changed nothing else about my life at first. And all of that feeling, that cloudy, kill yourself because you're two different people feeling, was different. It wasn't like gone, but it was entirely different than it had felt since I was like 10 years old. And it was enough of a change that my mind was changed, and I was sold on AA, and I was like, this must work, because it worked on me, you know? And I spent, weeks trying to figure out how it could possibly be free, because it was working on me so well that I was like amazed, and that is still why I'm so passionate about it to this day, because like I just work the 12 steps of AA, and everything in my life is better and different, and I am better and different. Like I love the way my mind works. It is exhausting living in here, but I don't think I would trade it for anything. And like this last thing I got with cancer was like this last little bit of self-love that I didn't have before. And if like when I got here, if you told me I would find God before I found self-love, I like would not have believed that in a million years. But I don't think I found my self-love without God. And it feels really good for someone who's so self-deprecating to become a part of a whole. Because I was so sick of myself. Like, I was so sick of my ideas, and so sick of my fucking solutions, and so sick of me. And that's why all I could see was everybody else being sick of me, because that was the mirror I saw all the time. And to come in here and not just be understood, but just seen, and like, yeah, I guess I understood. It went such a long way that like, and I was not expecting it, because I didn't know that was my problem. So when it changed me and changed my mind and changed my heart like so quickly, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's gotta be something real, because I didn't do any of this. And like I said this morning, like I didn't set AA up. It's just been there waiting for me to just play along. And maybe God is like that. Maybe AA is a big metaphor for God, And I feel lucky all the time that I get to be here and now when it's in our world. I mean, the humans have been around for how many hundreds of thousands of years, and I get to be alive during a solution. It's incredible.
So one last question, and I only ask this because you brought up your cancer. Excuse me. How do you think, or how has AA and the fellowship and the steps helped you deal with your diagnosis, number one, and then the treatment?
I mean, like one day at a time, it became, one day at a time is a really good design for living, but one day at a time is also a really good fire extinguisher for when my thoughts are like raging out of control and headed towards like the future, and they start to engulf the past. And I can just now, because of how many times I've sat in this room and how many times I've read this book and how many times I've sat in discussions, when I say to myself, one day at a time, I feel relief now. And I didn't believe people when I first got here and they told me that that would happen. But now it happens. And so it's like one appointment at a time, one diagnosis at a time. And like, I still didn't know how I was going to handle cancer. But I mean, I got this beautiful test, honestly, that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, you know. And I got to see, like, oh my God, is that a lump? Oh, that is a lump. Okay, what do we do? Okay, well, let's go to a meeting. You know, we can talk to other people about it. Oh, other people know about this. There's lots of other people that have cancer experience. Okay, so we're not all alone in that. So what if it is cancer? Oh, it is cancer. Okay, so what does that mean, you know? What if it's the worst kind of breast cancer? What if it's a double mastectomy? What if I do lose my hair? What if I have to do 6 months of chemo, you know? What if it's going to be a whole year until I have my reconstruction surgery, you know? If I had that list of questions in front of me the first day of cancer, I would have probably wanted to drink, you know? But doing them one at a time and then like getting through it without a drink and then getting through the next one without a drink, it's like until 4 years ago, I only had thing happens, then I drink, then mess happens, and then we try to figure it out. You know, that was my only course of action anytime there was an event. But now, every time I don't drink, that gets added to the list of options. So then now every time something happens, it's like drink or don't drink. You know, used to be when I first got here. But now, when I got diagnosed, drinking wasn't even on the table. It was like, okay, well, are we going to talk to our friends at AA about this or not? And like, I get to just look back at that and see that as growth in and of itself, and take so much pressure off of myself to be, you know, a perfect AA or like make sure I'm working all the steps and all of everything I do, you know. And I get to just look at that and be like, holy shit, Katie, like you made the choice between drink and don't drink. You turned that into share honestly and openly or hide your feelings, you know, from your AA fellows, which I took the drinking option out of it just by coming here and just by trying to connect to something bigger than me. I mean, my new problem is that I'm quite sure that like nothing matters in like the best way ever, you know. And there's so many things that seem like such a fallacy after you get this kind of like clarity. But my favorite Bill Wilson quote is, you know, you have to keep your head in the clouds where God is, and dream like a believer and live your life like a believer, you know. But you have to keep your feet on the ground where your fellow travelers are, because that's where the work is to be done. Like, seeing the way the world is today, like, it's harder and harder, especially the more we're all connected, to just disappear into my own world, you know? Like, it's hard for me to enjoy what I have without, like, thinking about all of the people that don't have, you know, and how lucky I am that I get to be sober and that I get to be here. And so I just have to be grateful. That's it. That's the only answer. And that,
it kind of reminds me of
that's how, yeah.
what we say luxury problems, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and that,
it's so inspiring what you've gone through, and not what you've gone through, but how you've gone through it. And, you know, just watching you come to meetings as often as you can throughout that whole thing. And it's not just me, like everyone has noticed it. Like, like that's such a powerful example of how this program can help you get through life, anything in life, like anything as big as cancer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but I also just don't see the point in getting through cancer and staying sober if, like, my friends are still suffering. And, like, that I really get. Like, that's the part of that quote that really makes sense to me. Like, how do I go and enjoy a beautiful day and not share, like, with you how I got there, you know? Like, it's the other day when you were sharing that you were doing the whole like first year's your program without the spiritual side of it. It's so mind-blowing to me because like I only have the spiritual side of my program because of you. Like you are one of the people that gave it to me. Like your discipline and your presence here, and like you were one of the people that was here every day, and I saw that I could be here every day, like that is something I could do. And so like of course I am so much smaller than I realize, but like I also have a role, and if I fucking love this program as much as I do, then I have to share it, because like if I'm sitting on a sunlit beach, but everyone behind me is in town, starving, suffering, sad, in pain, like we're all a part of this together. And like, I think we're going to find out more in the future that one of us can't be happy while the other one of us is suffering so greatly. Like we are in this together as a species,
And I think that's what we do really well in the fellowship.
Yes.
We don't,
by all accounts, it
leave
just
people behind.
shouldn't make sense. Like it shouldn't. The reason it works, I think, is because it's so honest. Like we just like the traditions are so honest. They're like, listen, these are our problems. This is what's wrong with us. This is what's gonna get in our way. But like, if you can trust us, this is how we have solved those problems. Like, if you trust this, you will be all right. Like, we promise,
Yeah.
And that's
Therein
big.
lies the problem, though.
Yeah.
You're telling alcoholics
defiant-
and
a
drug
person with
addicts,
defiance
the most
issues.
defiant people in society, hey, just
Yeah.
trust me. Hey, just
Yeah,
be willing.
and-
Hey, come to meetings and do what we do.
And do they not turn into the most amazing people in
yeah.
society?
Uh-huh.
Like, when I first got here and I started to realize that all of the people in this room, I was expecting to find all the people I was smoking cigarettes with at 3 o'clock in the morning at the bar. That's who I expected to find when I walked into AA, But it's not that. It's people. It's success. It's happiness. It's joy. It's like there's people with so much money here because they just know what they're doing, and like they are not recklessly spending, and they're not they're using all of their powers for good, all the people in here, and it's so inspiring.
That's not to say that everyone is like that in the program.
Of course
but
not. We have every kind of person in here, and they all sit at the same table. It's not just the 3 a.m. cigarette smokers.
But this is a roadmap. This program is a roadmap
Yes.
to live like that. And, those that do choose to walk that road, that path, I mean, it's...
And just like the spirituality,
inspiring results.
it's the widest funnel. Like, we all fit here, And then the best part is we all fit as completely different people. And then we sit here long enough and we realize that we're all just the same.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Well, that sounds like a great place to
hard
end.
work. Yeah.
That was great.
Thanks,
It's always good talking to you.
I just love
Always good
talking to you,
conversation.
and
Let's do this again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm down.
All right. This is,
Fun.
by the way, we could call this our third meeting of the day.
I love it, as Katie and Scott see it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
All right.